What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another UFC video. This one is a little bit different than we're used to on this channel, and I'm going to hopefully start making this a weekly thing before the events. So I watched the weigh-ins, and now we are going to go over my most confident picks for my most confident favorites for UFC Vegas 97. We're going to talk about some live underdogs for the card as well. And although I'm not 100% confident in dropping my bets just yet on my YouTube channel, I'm hoping we can get there soon. But I usually place my bets on the day of the event. I'm hoping to change that in the near future where I can place my bets throughout the week, and then we can talk about those plays in this particular video. So let's go ahead and go over the UFC Vegas 97 card, and make sure you hit that like button. Comment your most confident picks this week, your plays for this week for UFC Vegas 97, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. First off, let's talk about my most confident favorites. We're going to go from most to least confident. And starting off is obviously Isaac Bulgarian. This guy's like a minus 2,000 or something favorite, and that's for good reason. He's light years ahead of his opponent in terms of skill level. The only thing I'm going to say about this particular fight is beware of getting out of hand with like the round one props and the finish props and everything like that, because I know that there's nothing you can do with the money line. Minus 2,000. Nobody should be betting $2,000 to win 100 or anything. It just don't add them in parlays. Nothing. It doesn't make any sense. Now, the round one prop, the only reason why I'm saying to just be careful with that is I do believe he gets an early finish. Don't get me wrong. It's just knowing how he got screwed over in his last fight against Christian Rodriguez, where he completely gassed into that third round, and then that caused him to lose the fight, even though he still should have won it. Maybe he's going to come out a little more paced for this fight. I'm just saying, because it's the fight immediately after that Rodriguez fight, maybe he's worried about gassing if it does end up going far, if he doesn't manage to get that finish like he did, like what happened to him in the Christian Rodriguez fight. So just be a little bit careful with the Bulgarian, like round one props, things like that. My most to least favorite. So next up is going to be Natalia Silva. I'm a big fan of Natalia Silva. I think she has what it takes to be a future title contender and possibly future UFC champion. She's only 27 years old. She's about to fight Jessica Andrade this weekend, and it is a perfect spot for her to get a big name on her resume and just keep climbing to that title shot. And I just truly believe she is the better fighter everywhere at this particular time in both of their careers. I know Andrade has fought every big name in this division. She's been around for a very long time. But like I said, I just think Natalia is better literally everywhere other than maybe strength. I think Jessica Andrade brings that bullying style, which is very effective for her in most of her fights. But somebody like Natalia Silva is going to have the footwork, the speed to stay away from the bursts of attack from Jessica Andrade and be able to stay away from her getting a hold of her and maybe like throwing her around, getting some takedowns and whatnot. I just really like this Natalia Silva play. I'm very high on her this week to get it done against Jessica Andrade. Next up, Sean Brady. Now, I'm a big fan, just like everybody else is, of Gilbert Burns. The guy's great. He's got an awesome UFC career. He's just a scrapper. He will agree to fight literally anybody, and he's proven that throughout his UFC career. But at 38 years old, coming off of a knockout loss to Jack Della Maddalena, like 3 or 4 months ago, maybe longer than that. I'm not 100% sure, but somebody like Sean Brady, I think, is just going to, that wrestling pressure is going to be a lot for Durinho, and a lot of people are saying, oh, Durinho's got awesome grappling as well to kind of threaten Brady when they're doing that, when they're in those wrestling exchanges. But Gilbert Burns doesn't have a single submission in the UFC, I'm pretty sure. I'm just going to double check that just in case I'm talking out of my ass here. But let's see. He does have 9 submission wins in his career. But, okay, he has a submission over Neil Magny. And he has a submission over Mike Davis. All right. So maybe, like I said, I was talking out of my ass, but he hasn't submitted anybody other than a 39-year-old Neil Magny, 37. Jesus Christ. And then before that, like I said, the other one was Mike Davis back in 2019. So it's been a very long time. Somebody like Sean Brady, I think, is going to bring some high wrestling pressure. I think he has the better cardio as well. I do worry about how he's going to look over 5 rounds, but I do think that it's going to be competitive on the feet. I don't think Dorino is that much better, but if it does end up going on the ground, I don't think Gilbert Burns is going to be throwing up submissions off of his back. Sean Brady has that submission threat as well, and he has some good ground control once the fight gets down there. So I'm pretty high on Sean Brady this week as well. I think the odds are pretty have good value for the Brady side also. Next up, Gabriel Santos. Now, I wasn't going to add him in the most confident picks section, but he looked dialed in. He looked great at the weigh-ins, and I just don't think Yiza really has anything for him. Yeah, Yiza might be able to land a few takedowns, but Gabriel has fantastic grappling to threaten the submissions, pull off some sweeps to get onto top position, or just get up on his feet. And when this is in the striking department, I think Gabriel Santos is miles ahead of Yiza in that. So I just don't think Yiza has much to offer in this fight. Gabriel is coming off of a 2-fight losing streak, both of those fights coming in the UFC. But I think this is a great bounce back spot for him. He should probably get this done. And then Andre Petroski. I wasn't going to put Andre in this. I wasn't going to put him in this section, but watching what happened at the weigh-ins, Dylan Budka missed by 2.5 pounds, I think. It was a decent weight miss, and he looked gone on that scale. He was completely out of it, dried up. He had to get helped off of the scale. It was not a good look. Andre Petroski, I already thought he's literally just a better version of a Dylan Budka. And now, because of what went down at the weigh-ins, I just think that Petroski's 100% going to get this done. And yeah, so Andre Petroski to get it done against Dylan Budka. Now, next up, let's talk about some live underdogs. Now, this section, I'm not necessarily picking all of these underdogs, but they're ones that kind of stuck out and have a chance to get it done. Like I said, not all of them are going to be necessarily who I agree on in terms of a pick, but they're going to be honorable mentions. First up, Zigomantis Ramashka. I am actually picking Ramashka to get this done because I just like the danger factor that he has on the feet. I don't think Nathan Fletcher is going to be able to hang on the feet. And yes, Fletcher has fantastic wrestling, good control on the ground, and good ability to get to the back of his opponents once the fight is on the mat. But somebody like Ramashka, I think, is going to be able to land some big shots on the feet. I think even if he does get taken down, which he has been susceptible to in his career, throughout his career, I think he will find himself back onto his feet. And when it is, I've seen Nathan Fletcher get hurt way too many times. I've seen him dive for legs and his opponents be able to time some uppercuts, some big strikes, and some knees during those entries of Nathan Fletcher. And I think that is one of the moments that is going to go down against Ramashka. I think Ramashka is going to find that timing and land a big shot on Fletcher during one of his entries. And I just think I don't know if he's necessarily going to finish Nathan Fletcher, but I think for the majority he will be able to fend off those takedowns, and on the feet the bigger moments will probably be on the Ramashka side. So he is actually one of my underdog picks. Next up, we got Chris Padilla. Chris Padilla is also an underdog that I'm picking this week. He's going up against Rong Zhu, who is 1-2 in the UFC. He's only defeated a Brendan Jenkins, which was on short notice. Like, he's only 24. Rong Zhu's only 24, so I'm sure he has a bright future. He has 30 career fights already, so lots of experience. But he's shown that he can get controlled and taken down to the mat, and that's exactly what Chris Padilla is going to be looking for in this matchup. I think where Rong Zhu struggles the most is where Chris Padilla has this ability of putting fights in those situations, aka getting those takedowns, mauling his opponents on the ground. And Rong Zhu has shown that he is susceptible to his opponents being able to do that to him. So I love Chris Padilla here. He's like a plus 187. I think that's fantastic value, and he is one of my underdog picks. Now, these next two, I'm not going to be picking them, but they are some people that I need to mention. Matt Schnell. The reason why the reason why I'm mentioning Matt Schnell as a live underdog is because he's almost like a 4-1 underdog. And he's going up against a short notice Cody Durden. This is up at bantamweight though. These fighters both fight at 125, both at flyweight. But because of the extremely short notice on the Durden side, they agreed to a 135 fight. Now the reason why I'm putting Schnell in this live underdog spot is because if you guys know who Cody Durden is, which I'm sure you do, he is an absolute animal. He's relentless. He has a crazy chain wrestling pressure style. And he will probably find success, which he typically does, in fights in that manner. But he has 4 career submission losses because sometimes he gets a little too excited and he chain wrestles, leaves his neck out there, and he gets submitted. Somebody like Matt Schnell has fantastic jiu-jitsu, and even though it doesn't show in most of his fights because he is okay with brawling with his opponents and making an entertaining fight for the fans, when the fight gets down to the mat, he is extremely dangerous with that submission threat, and somebody like Cody Durden is susceptible to getting his neck caught up in stuff like that. So that's why I think Schnell is a live underdog. There's no sub prop on the Schnell side, and who knows, maybe I'll just dabble on it for some fun. The pick for me is Cody Durden to get it done because of that high pressure style, but I would not be surprised if Matt Schnell at some point during one of these takedowns snatches up a neck of Cody Durden and finds himself back in the W column. Now, next is Vanessa Demopoulos. I do not think Vanessa is going to win this fight. I think the danger factor is all on the Jacqueline Amarim side. But we've seen before that the judges, for some reason, love giving the win to Vanessa in fights that she didn't necessarily win. And one thing I will give her is that she terrorizes her opponents. She's constantly moving forward, constantly in your face. She won't quit. She'll fight for the entire 15 minutes, and she gives the judges a lot to score. And I think that's one of the reasons why they favor her in these fights. And Jacqueline Amarim has shown that she can slow down, she can gas, and even though she has amazing grappling, Vanessa has never been submitted. Now, I'm not going to say that won't happen. I genuinely can see a submission on the Amarim side, but it is something to note that Vanessa Demopoulos is a decently sized underdog, and considering how her past few fights have went with her getting a win, even though she shouldn't have, it honestly isn't the worst idea to dabble on a Vanessa Demopoulos like decision play or just her money line in general. But just something to mention. Now, there are other live underdogs throughout this card. For example, Felipe Dos Santos. I'm picking Andre Lima because even though Dos Santos is that high volume, like in your face fighter, he is shoot the box, and as we know, shoot the box fighters all fight exactly the same. They're brawlers. They're game. They just want to constantly push the pace and fight on the front foot, but they can get hit. Andre Lima is extremely talented in the counter striking, and I think that's going to be Felipe Dos Santos' downfall. That's why I didn't add him in here. Yanal Ashmuz, Trevor Peek is not a skilled fighter, but he's a dog, and that's why I just think Trevor Peek's going to get it done. And like I said, you can make a case for a lot of these underdogs, but these particular ones that we've mentioned are ones that I think are live to get it done. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some method of victory props and some other sort of props. Most of them are method of victories, but these aren't necessarily ones that I'm going to personally play, but these ones I believe have a decent amount of value for the particular matchups and whatnot. So first off is going to be, we didn't even mention Steve Garcia in the most confident section. I'm not really that confident in him, but Kyle Nelson missed weight. Steve Garcia is an animal. I like him in this one. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about those props again. Andre Petroski to get it done by submission. It is plus 350. And although Petroski is not known for his finishing per se, he has that ability. He has fantastic jiu-jitsu. His grappling is great, and he is a tank of a human being. If he locks up a sub, it is probably going to end there. And somebody like Dylan Budka, who had a terrible weight cut, who's already shown that he gasses out in his last fight in particular, I think Andre's going to be the one landing the takedowns. I think he's going to be able to find a submission eventually, and to get plus 350 on that, considering what we just saw at the weigh-ins, I actually think this is an extremely good value. And these odds, guys, I'm getting from Bet365. So they may be like a few points off depending on the book that you use. But Andre Petroski by sub, I really like there. The value is great. Now, next is going to be some Isaac Dolgarian props. Okay? So, like we talked about when we were breaking down him at the most confident section, beware of the round one props, the early finish props, because round one for Dolgarian is only minus 180. So obviously it is much better than minus 2,000. But like I said, if he's worried about gassing like he did in his previous fight, I don't know if he's going to be that intense in the first round. But if you look at his KO prop, minus 175, that is way crazier value in comparison to his straight up money line. If you guys have seen Dolgarian fight before, the guy is relentless. He's going to ragdoll his opponents, get them down to the ground, and he has ruthless ground and pound. I'm personally really thinking about dabbling in his KO prop. Minus 175 isn't the greatest for a KO considering how volatile this sport is, but I actually don't mind that whatsoever. It is so much better than his minus 2,000 money line, and that's how I personally think he gets it done. If you guys think that he's going to sneak in a submission, plus 150 is even better. I just don't want to personally, I don't think he's going to, this is just my own personal thing. I'm sure anything can happen. Obviously, we know that as MMA fans, but Brendan Marotte has never been submitted. I believe he's been KO'd. I'm going to double check that just so that I'm not lying. Brendan Marotte has been KO'd once, never been submitted in his career. So obviously there's a first time for everything in most cases, and Dolgarian can probably find a submission, but I personally think he gets it done by KO, and the difference between a minus 2,000 money line to minus 175, it is worth it. I probably won't play it straight up. Maybe I'll dabble with something not so risky and then maybe get like plus odds of some sort, but that is how I would personally attack the Dolgarian line. So next we are going to talk about my boy Chris Taco Padilla by submission. Plus 550 for Padilla to lock up a submission against Rong Zhu is crazy high odds in my opinion. The value there is insanity, and I'm going to explain why. Chris Padilla is very opportunistic in the grappling. We saw that in his short notice UFC debut against James Yontop. His ability to get to that submission, it was like a sixth sense for him. It was so instinctual to grab the back and choke up and get that neck to choke James Yontop in that fight. Rong Zhu, 25-5 in his career. We all know that side of the world, the skill level and the competition is questionable. But his 5 losses, you guys ready for this? 4 of them are by submission. Okay? He's been submitted by Ignacio Bahamondes in the UFC, and that's Ignacio's only submission victory in his entire career. All right? If Bahamondes can find a choke, a Bravo choke specifically, on Rong Zhu, who's been submitted 3 other times in his career, so 4 total like we just mentioned, somebody like Chris Padilla, who is so opportunistic in the grappling department, against somebody like Rong Zhu, who can get taken down. Obviously, Chris Padilla can maybe find like a ground and pound TKO, but I think that during one of the scrambles, Chris Padilla is going to find his way to a submission, and if he doesn't lock it up, I'm sure there's going to be a couple of submission attempts on his side, so that plus 550 is just calling my name. I don't know why. I think if Taco Padilla gets it done, it will most likely be by submission, so I really like that. Like I said with these props, guys, I'm not necessarily throwing money at every single one, but these ones are just where I see the fight playing out and then having like a ton of value behind it as well. So I really like that for Chris Taco Padilla. Next up, we have the Trevor Peek and Yanal Ashmu's fight. Fight to go the distance is minus 120. Now, the fight not to go the distance is also minus 120, but hear me out on why I think it goes long. We all know Trevor Peek is an absolute animal. You literally have to kill him to get him to stop fighting. He is extremely tough. He's never going to stop fighting. And in a 3-round fight, it's even better. It's not like the cardio is going to be a problem. The guy he's just an animal. He's an animal when he enters the cage. There's probably not a lot of people on planet Earth that can put him away at any weight class because the guy's crazy. Anyway, and then you have Yanal Ashmouz on the other side. He broke his arm in the first round against Chris Duncan, and he did not shy away. He didn't quit. He didn't say, you know what, my arm is broken. I'm just going to call it a day, pack it in. The moment Chris Duncan lands big on me or takes me down, I'm just going to quit. That was not in the cards for Yanal Ashmouz. He is also a dog. He's also somebody that won't stop fighting, and that's why I favor this fight to go the distance. Minus 120 is great value, especially I think it's a little more safer than going with a money line on either side. But you get plus 100 for Ashmouz and minus 125 on Trevor Peek. But this way, because they're both extremely tough and will probably go the 15 minutes, I like it at minus 120. I think those are good odds. All right, and we got two more. We got two more to do, and then we are out of here. Let's go back to Natalia Silva. Natalia by KO TKO against Jessica Andrade is plus 275. Now, a lot of people think this fight's going long, and it definitely could. It's a women's MMA fight, but Jessica Andrade has been knocked out 5 times in her career. All right, in her last 5 fights, 2 out of her 3 losses in her last 5 have been knockouts. That's a lie. That's a lie. One of those 3 losses was a knockout by Yan Xiaonan, who is not a terrible fighter at all. But Natalia Silva hurts basically all of her opponents. She's fast. She hits like a freight train. I don't know. I was going to say like a man, but I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want her to get offended. You know what I'm saying? But the reason why I think she can get this KO is because Jessica Andrade is a pit bull. She moves forward and she likes to blitz her opponents. But somebody like Natalia Silva with her striking ability and technique on the feet, I think she's going to catch Jessica on one of her spurts moving in. I think when Jessica pushes her up against pushes that pace, goes up against it, when she throws a flurry, I think in those situations, Natalia will find an opening and ding Jessica Andrade and maybe be able to hurt her, follow her to the ground, and then finish things up by a TKO. Like I keep saying, I'm not necessarily screaming that this is going to happen, but value-wise and things that I can see playing out, this is one of those things. So, plus 275 is pretty decent. It's not bad. All right, and the last one that I want to talk about is going to be Sean Brady by submission. Sean Brady plus 700 by submission against Gilbert Burns, to me, is outrageously, Dorino has never been submitted in his career, okay? We got to start off with that. Never been submitted, okay? It's one thing to keep in mind. But he is 38 years old now. He's going to be slowing down. He's well out of his prime. And somebody like Sean Brady, who has that grappling acumen, yes, Sean Brady only has 5 submissions in his career, okay? In his last 5 fights, that's where he's gotten 3 of them. He submitted Christian Aguilera, okay, in the UFC, submitted Jake Matthews, which is an underrated win in my opinion. And in his most recent fight, he ragdolled Kelvin Gastelum, made Gastelum look silly, and then finished him by Kimura in the 3rd round. I can, for some reason, see it happening. Sean Brady has never been in a 5-round fight, I don't think. He's never fought 5 rounds before. So if he finds those spots on the ground where he thinks he can finish up the fight, I think he's going to go for it, especially near the end of a round or something like that. I have this gut feeling that we're going to find a sub. Sean Brady's going to find a submission, and at plus 700, dude, it's insane to me. So we're going to see how the rest of the plays go during the event. And if we ended up making some money up until the main event, I might just dabble on that plus 700 line for Brady to get a sub. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys for the recap video Saturday night. I'll probably release it late Saturday night. Regardless, I'll see you guys in that video. Don't forget to like the video, comment down below what your best picks and plays are for UFC Vegas 97, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll see you in the next video.